On today's episode of Locked On Wild, best player available. Do not draft for need with the NHL Draft coming up on Friday. Plus, can we just copy Edmonton's penalty kill for the upcoming season?
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. With the playoffs winding down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we will discuss the NHL Draft coming up this weekend, as well as more steam pushing towards Jack Capuano being named assistant coach for the Minnesota Wild. And we'll talk about Game 7 tonight. One team, confidence flying high. The other team praying that something goes right as the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers look to finish the NHL postseason with a win. My name is Seth Topol, your daily Minnesota Wild insider, and we are joined today by Alex Micheletti for his usual Monday appearance. And Alex, a lot to get to here today because the NHL Draft is Friday. I've been operating under the last 6 weeks that it was on Wednesday. I don't know where I got that from. Maybe the fact that the NBA Draft is Wednesday, but it'll be interesting to see the route that the Minnesota Wild go because we've talked about the defensemen in this draft being pretty solid at the top. So the hopes are that one of them falls to 13. You've got some forward prospects as well. But I think the prevailing theory is that we just hope that the Wild go best player available as opposed to what they did last year, which was drafting for need. And look how that turned out.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if somebody falls, like you mentioned. We're reading into a lot of the, Iowa defensemen just are not, developing like they, possibly should. I know they're all still pretty young, but what do you do? It's, but like you said, best player available. That's what they have to do, and hopefully they don't trade down because that's always a bummer when we're doing live draft coverage. But yeah, who knows? I mean, I know it would be kind of ironic for them to draft Cole Yzerman after he decommitted from the University of Minnesota, and then he still ends up in the state of Minnesota. So that would be interesting, because he's going to be right there within the the 13th pick. So we'll see if it would also be kind of interesting too because he's a Boston University Terrier, and Bill Guerin went to Boston College, so the chief rival. So yeah, that'd be very interesting too to see if he would do that. But yeah, I can't wait to watch it. It's gonna be in the Sphere, and we'll see how that goes.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see the direction that Judd Brackett kind of looks. I know he's talked about in interviews leading up to the draft. There are some good centers in this draft, great defensemen, and he said, you don't ever shy away from drafting particular areas. You want to always make sure that you're replenishing at various positions. But I guess my wish list for how this plays out, I am not going to be upset one bit if one of those defensemen slips to 13 and the Wild have an opportunity to go that route. If there's a forward, if they end up missing out on those top guys and they get one of the better forward prospects, that's fine by me too. it's just interesting. I view defensemen probably as more of a need at this point because we've got all those forward prospects that'll be coming up through the system in the next couple of years. But beyond like the replacement for, say, Jared Spurgeon, Jonas Brodin, like those guys are in there, they're getting to 30 and mid 30s. So drafting somebody that could be a replacement for them 3 or 4 years down the road, I think is probably the top area to address. But I've talked about this in episodes kind of leading up to the draft too. I wouldn't be upset if the Wild look at a goalie somewhere around like round 4 or later to just add somebody to the pipeline, because if Philip Gustafsson gets traded, all of a sudden your goalie pipeline's pretty thin too.
Yeah, it's the most like we talk about. It's the most important position in hockey is goaltending. You build from the back end, out. Jesper eventually can't play all 82. So you're definitely right. They would you need a 1B and then have good protection there, like you said in Iowa and you never know with goalies and injuries, and that position can linger for weeks and sometimes months. So always good to have that extra depth for sure. And if they do trade Gus this week, you're going to have to find a third veteran type of guy too that can be comfortable playing in an Iowa role, but can come up in a pinch if needed. I know this guy retired, but a Thomas Greiss type guy that's been in the league for a while and is comfortable being in a minor league role,
multi-purpose. And it's not any suggestion that like you need somebody because you're not sure what Jesper's going to bring. Like you need bodies. You've got Samuel Levi, who is, I would imagine, going to be the main guy down in Iowa this year. And the kid that they signed that went to, I think it was Wisconsin.
Yes.
That's it.
McClellan. That's it.
That's all you've got. And so if you trade Gus, which it's going to happen at the draft, or my guess is it will not happen. You need guys to have that can be kind of a contingency plan, because a lot of times stuff doesn't go according to the plan that you lay out. We saw that this past year. Like everything that was laid out as, okay, here's how this is going to work, none of it went according to plan.
No.
So it's
and they went haywire early. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Again, the big one is going to be, at what point is Gus traded? Like that seems to be, the most likely player to be moved off this Minnesota Wild roster. You've still got the Linus Ullmark trade that is kind of hanging in the balance. It sounds like maybe that's a done deal contingent on an extension from Boston to Ottawa. So that would be, not that Gus was going to go back to Ottawa, but that's another team that does not need a goal anymore. And so do you at some point, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, does one of those teams that is in real big need of a goalie get desperate? Like that's the thing to watch as we get closer to the draft this week.
Yeah, a team that I'm going to definitely keep an eye on, and they've dealt goalies to this team in the past, is San Jose. They just seem to always need a goalie, and that's a team where they could take on a Gus contract because they're nowhere near the max, unlike the Wild, and they're looking for guys to make sure that they're above the salary cap floor. I mean, we saw all the drama with Barclay Goodrow that Mike Greer and Chris Drury kind of they kind of skirted the lines of salary cap, where Goodrow was on the no trade list to go to San Jose. So Drury just put him on waivers and San Jose still claimed him. So I'm sure the league was not happy about that. I'm sure agents are not happy that they kind of did a workaround to get him on San Jose. And you look at their goaltending right now, it's awful. And Gus could go in there and legitimately be their starter for sure.
I'm reacting to the goalie situation and also the retained money / buyout situation for San Jose right now. They're paying Brent Burns, Erik Karlsson, Tomas Hertl, and Martin Jones, and Mackenzie Blackwood is their only goalie on roster as of right now. Now, here's the interesting thing. Here's the thing to keep in mind. Draft picks for the Sharks this year. They have 2 first-round picks, courtesy of they got the Penguins pick that they got for Erik Karlsson. The Sharks also have 2 second-round picks. So they have early ammo in the draft this year. And so it would not be surprising to see them maybe hop into the midst.
They took Capo before. They can take us if they want them.
We're literally going to have to rename them Wild West because they've got just Mikael Granlund, Nico Sturm, Luke Cunnin. They just have former Wild players, Kalen Addison, just all over the place. And the other thing to keep in mind on the Sharks side of things too, they've been active already. Like they're getting set up to be some big players here before free agency starts. And so I like San Jose as a potential destination. I know Denny has mentioned them in the live shows on Sunday a few times as well. San Jose is intriguing because they've got high picks and they know what to do with them. So we'll see what happens in that regard. But as mentioned, as we have been mentioning, big draft show for the Soda Pod on Friday, going through the entirety of the first round. And so you can see yours truly. You can see Alex. We'll be part of the draft stream on Friday, breaking down all the picks, all the craziness, and I'm sure there will be puzzlement. I hope there will be no puzzlement as to what the Wild do, like last year.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, we hopefully they keep their pick. If they do trade it, at least get a good asset. But the draft is funner when we're reacting live to what the Wild do for sure.
Yeah, and it's fun when it's a player that's on the board, like
right.
To where you're not having to be like, who?
Huh? Yes.
So we'll have all that for you later in the week. Look for a playlist with all of the draft profiles that we've done so far later today. And, of course, we'll have tons of reaction for you, whoever the Wild pick at the end of the week. And, of course, any trades between now and then as well. We're going to circle back to something we discussed a couple of weeks ago because in the latest straight from the source, Michael Russo said it's essentially a done deal. Jack Capuano sounds like we'll be hopping on as an assistant. So we'll take a look at where his former teams ranked in the areas that he was tasked with taking a look at. That is all coming up as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by FanDuel. This may be a shock for our listeners, but I love sports. I love them so much. I don't ever want them to stop. We're just about down to the point in the year where it is baseball or bust. We get fewer games and the sports aren't sportsing like I typically like them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is pop open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm feeling the need to do so. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. If you're in a state where sports betting is legal, my foolproof method this year has been to bet on the team that the Chicago White Sox are playing. It's as sure of a guaranteed thing as you can possibly have. couple games ago, they lost because a base runner lost track of the outs on a routine fly ball to center field, and they got doubled up to end the game. Bingo. There's your winning bet. So if you want to take that as your foolproof strategy, head to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day of the week. As we mentioned, on Sunday, we'll be joined by former North Stars forward Jack Carlson. So we've got on the community tab the option for you to post your questions. If you have any that you would like to have Jack answer, we'll be taking those until Thursday so that Jack's got a couple of days to take a look at them before the live show on Sunday at noon. So don't miss out. Make sure to check out the community tab so that you can ask your question as well. And speaking of question, in the latest Straight from the Source, Michael Russo saying that they're basically just waiting until Jack Capuano's current deal with the Ottawa Senators expires to announce it as official, but it sounds like Jack Capuano is going to take Darby Hendrickson's assistant coaching spot on this coaching staff. And Capuano has he's got previous NHL head coaching experience with the New York Islanders. He also has experience with John Hynes. And honestly, Alex, I was telling you before we hit record, I should probably be way more excited about this because Capuano has a team that has advanced out of the first round of the postseason in the last 14 years. In 2015, 2016 with the New York Islanders, the Islanders advanced to round 2 of the postseason. But the big thing here is he is likely going to be tasked with running the defense and potentially the penalty kill for the Minnesota Wild. And I'm looking at the numbers for the Ottawa Senators over the last few years. They've gotten over 80% on the penalty kill one time.
It's a nightmare. The Senators have been a laughingstock of the NHL defensively for a long time. Going back to when Erik Karlsson was on there, it's just they've just never figured it out defensively and goaltending. Good luck to Linus Ullmark if he does get traded there. But clearly the Senators had enough of Capuano, and that's why he's no longer coaching there. And so this seems kind of like a disaster retread hire. Who knows what to expect with this guy? He's a wild card.
Let's just let me just give you the numbers here. So 2019-2020 was Capuano's first year as assistant for the Ottawa Senators. The Senators were 30th in the NHL with 3.35 goals against per game. Now, that's not all defense, although the Senators had a 90% save percentage that year. So keep that in mind. 3.35 goals against, 30th out of 31 teams in 2019-2020. In 2020-2021, the Senators 3.38 goals allowed per game, which was 28th in the league. 2021-2022, the Senators were at 3.22 goals against per game. That was 22nd in the league. So little improvement in 2021-2022. 2022-2023, 3.29 goals against per game. And that was in the bottom third of the league. And this past season, 3.43 goals against per game, which was 5th worst in the NHL. And that's not taking into account the penalty kill. And again, I know I said that that's not all on the defense because the goaltending has also been bad. But, I mean, in that same span, like, let's just look at this. I would be looking at the teams that were on the other side of the coin, like up in the top 10. And the New York Islanders, the year after Jack Capuano, or a couple of years after he left, they were in the top 10. They were 9th in goals against per game, just a few years after he left. And
that's what the Islanders are known for too, is being great defensively.
Like I think this is the point that a lot of fans get frustrated with, is like, it would be great to break that cycle and to go get up and comers and to add up and comers into your organization. But the guy who is in charge of doing all that is a guy who has bounced around a couple of spots himself.
Right. So we talk about a lot, like nepotism, or just like going to your friends for roles, and that can be fine if they're successful. But it seems like the people that keep getting added to the organization, there hasn't been a whole lot of success. And so when you bring that in, how are you supposed to create a culture of winning if it's all it's been is a lot of losing and just a lot of chaos? That's what's kind of, bothering me, and just like wondering where is the direction for the team, especially when your best player has an extension, that is going to have to happen at some point. And does he want to sign that extension?
And this is maybe me going down the road a little too far. Mm-hmm. I just assume that as opposed to a scheme, we're going to get a system. And this is what happened under Dean Evason. Is it's okay. It's fine to have a system. Like I'm not going against the notion of a system, but a lot of times that means this either works or it doesn't. There's not a lot in the way of adjustments or tweaks. And honestly, if you wanted a pretty surefire way to fix the penalty kill, for instance, just look at what the Edmonton Oilers have done all postseason. They're at 94.1% on the penalty kill in the postseason. They're playing a 3 high from what I've seen and what I've seen mentioned about it on Twitter as well. But you are having guys like Warren Foegele, Connor Brown, Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as your primary forwards on the penalty kill. And on defense, Cody Ceci, Matthias Ekholm, Darnell Nurse. Like, respectfully, I think the Wild have better personnel than that. But this is, again, scheme, system. A scheme can be adjusted based off of the personnel that you have at your disposal. You may modify a scheme based off of the strengths of your players. With a system, it's like, this is what we're doing. Either figure it out or it's not going to work.
And, credit to, and this is a local guy that is helping run their penalty kill, Mark Stewart, who played in the NHL for a long time, played college hockey at Colorado College. He's from the Rochester area, but they hired him, and now, he's completely changed their penalty kill. It was an excellent hire. Unbelievable move by them, and it's kind of cool that there's a Minnesota connection there. But he played in the league for a long time, and had a lot of success, and he's getting the most out of a lot of these guys. Credit to Zach Hyman. I think one of the I put it on Twitter. I think one of the best free agent signings of all time. Just imagine if Toronto would have decided to keep him, how much different their team might be in the postseason. But like you said, though, I mean, they're getting the most out of guys like Matthias Janmark and Connor Brown, who, I mean, for the majority of the season, Connor Brown did not score, didn't do much, and he's making $4 million, but he's really turned things around in the postseason, and he's been, one of their keys, with their depth scoring, and he's scoring shorthanded goals. It's, they completely neutralized one of, the Panthers' biggest weapons was their power play. And you take a look at, Matthew Tkachuk's been, other than that defensive play he made the past couple of games, he's been extremely quiet. Carter Verhaeghe, who's known as a postseason hero, and he's been extremely quiet, and they've taken him off the top power play and put in, Vlad Tarasenko. So we'll see if that makes a difference tonight or not. But credit to the Oilers for making adjustments, which the Wild had a really tough time doing this season, and look what it's done for the Oilers. And they've made a lot of moves that probably have made some veterans upset. Evander Kane has stayed out of the lineup, and since they've taken him out, all they've done is won. So, but that's what it takes to win a Stanley Cup. And you can't. You have to put egos aside, and they're doing that for the betterment of the team by not having him in the lineup.
And we'll talk a little bit more to finish the show today about Game 7 tonight, because the Oilers riding high after rallying from 3-0 down to tie the series. And if you're the Florida Panthers, you are pulling out all the stops, the sage, the voodoo dolls. They're pulling everything out of the woodwork to try to exercise some of those demons. And so we'll finish taking a look at if the Oilers can finish the job as we finish today's episode of Locked On Wilds after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Seth Topol and Alex Micheletti finishing the show up today. Continuing our discussion on Game 7 tonight. Florida Panthers, 3-0 lead, gone. And the Edmonton Oilers stand on the brink of winning 4 straight to walk off the Stanley Cup final over the Florida Panthers. And honestly, I got to tell you, I have been in Florida's corner for most of this series. I just don't see how you can shut it off now. If you are the Edmonton Oilers, I think there's too much momentum. Stuart Skinner has been phenomenal over the last few games. Florida does not have one single thing. If there was one single thing that you could point to as like a rallying point in these last 3 games, that would be one thing. Florida has been outplayed on offense. They've been torched defensively. Their power play is non-existent. Their goaltending has been leaky over these last 3 games. It's really hard to find anything for Florida to hang their hat on.
Yeah. The key tonight is getting that first goal, because it seems like in this series, whoever scores first is winning that game. And so if they can get a goal and, turn that into, a second goal, it seems like once you score, then the floodgates open for whoever scores first. We've seen it with Edmonton, how they've been able to get back in this series. They score in bunches, and then, Florida just becomes demoralized, and Bob's been pulled, which is I never would have ever thought that, and Stolarz has had to come in, but I don't know how they stop this Edmonton train. The only thing is, like we talk about a lot on here is, they will have the home ice where, they can dictate matchups, as best they can. But if they can get that first one and feel good about themselves, it changes everything. And they need to get Sam Reinhart going too. He's been very quiet, and he's a guy that's looking to cash in this summer. And so if he can score and win a cup, that only drives his price up and up. So yeah, there's a lot of motivations for both teams. You take a look at Kyle Okposo, who this could be his last game in the NHL tonight. If he wins a cup, that would be incredible way to walk out and a long 16-year career, from St. Paul. So the cup would probably be coming back home here, which would be really, really cool for the city of St. Paul, and him just getting to show it around, albeit not in wild colors, but as a Florida Panther, that'd be pretty cool for him to end his career as a champion. And then you take a look at Edmonton, and there's just so many storylines on that side of things. Corey Perry's been with so many teams in the past couple of years where he's been on the losing end. If he were to win a cup and get another cup, he started off his career in Anaheim and won a cup there when he was a youngin, and now is at the end of his, at the ending nearing for him. I don't think he'd retire after tonight, but and you take a look at Connor and Leon. They've been in the league a long time now, and they don't want to end their careers without a Stanley Cup. So it's a legacy game for a lot of these Edmonton guys. It should be wild tonight.
The thing that I am going to be most enthused about watching is what does the other side do potentially to overreact to giving up the first goal? Like if you're the Florida Panthers and you give up an early goal right away, what do you do? Like, do you stay with Bobrovsky? Do you pull him out early, or too early as opposed to too late? Like,
it's and could you imagine if we get an overtime tonight too? Just oh man, the nerves. It's gonna be interesting to see what Paul Maurice does, because this is a legacy for him too. He wants a cup on his resume. He's been in the league for so long. He started coaching. He got an early start. It's amazing how long he's been in the league, and this is his absolute best chance to do it, and to do it at home. Would the road team, if they celebrate on your home ice with a cup, that is really tough. You don't like seeing that. So a lot on the line for Florida. I mean, to lose back-to-back Stanley Cups would be devastating.
That'd be tough. And on the Edmonton side too, Connor McDavid has found it over the last few games, but Leon Draisaitl also having his best game of the Stanley Cup final in Game 6. That
pass he made, it's like he's the best passer in the world.
That was disgusting.
Absolutely incredible. And I like that he's called himself out and said that I haven't been the best that I'm capable of being, but he showed it when their season was on their line in Game 6, and we'll see if they can do it on the road. Like I said, Florida will be able to dictate last change, and we'll see if that helps them. But how do you slow down this Edmonton offense when they get going? It's gonna be a chess match for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be appointment television. I'm glad we get one final game before we go into the baseball abyss. Made worse by the fact that nobody can watch Major League Baseball. here in Minnesota.
What a league too, the NHL. They've been having major trades happen while the season is still ongoing. We saw Darcy Kemper get traded for Pierre-Luc Dubois, which was just mind-boggling that Darcy got moved for a player like that. And he's back in LA where he's been before. So it's crazy.
I saw somebody suggest that you start the NHL season the first weekend in October with games from like 9 a.m. Central to 10 p.m. Central. Just do everybody plays on that Saturday, and then you just go full bore from there. And I was like, I'll see if I can find the tweet, but
it's we've talked about, your love of hockey kind of grew because of COVID and games going on at all times of the day. It was crazy. It was fun as a sports fan. It was obviously difficult circumstances with no fans, but really exciting hockey. And of course, we never wish that ever were to happen again. But based on what happened, but it was fun hockey to watch for sure.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens here this evening. At this point, I would be remiss if I didn't go with the Oilers to win. And so we'll see if they do, or we'll see if Florida finds it somewhere out there on the ice.
Plus, I put this on Twitter. Paul Fenton and his son are in the front office of the Florida Panthers.
Thank you for reminding me.
See them win the Stanley Cup. On one hand, you want to see Kyle Okposo, but do you want to see Paul Fenton get a ring? I don't know after how he treated people here.
I'm go oil.
Yes.
Now, knowing I said that, it'll turn out
Completely
differently, but we'll see. That's our show for today. Appreciate everybody tuning in as you do throughout the week. Keep an eye out for more draft content as we get closer to Friday, and for the live show as well. If you want to ask former North Stars forward Jack Carlson a question, head to the community tab and you can ask it on that post. We ask that if you've got a question, you get those in by Thursday so that we can get those to Jack to take a look before we have him on the show on Sunday. Beyond that, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week, including some exciting things that we have coming up for you to help kick off the new season and a little bit of the Lockdown Wild 2.0. So stay tuned for all of that as well. You can find new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.